Okay, here's the next installment of Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. Chapter 2. It's a long one, so I'm going to break Chapter 2 up in a couple of days. So Chapter 2 is called Mr. and Mrs. Juicio. One night my father came home from the office all excited. He told us Mr. and Mrs. Yarby were coming to New York. He's the president of the Juicio Company. He lives in Chicago. I wondered if he'd bring my father another crate of Juicio. If he did, I'd probably be drinking it for the rest of my life. Just thinking about it was enough to make my stomach hurt. My father said he invited Mr. and Mrs. Yarby to stay with us. My mother wanted to know why they couldn't just stay in a hotel like most people do when they come to New York. My father said they could, but he didn't want them to. He thought they'd be more comfortable staying with us. My mother said that was about the silliest thing that she'd ever heard. But she fixed up Fudge's bedroom for our guests. She put fancy sheets and a brand new blanket on the hide-a-bed. That's a sofa that opens up into a bed at night. It's in Fudge's room because it used to be our den. Before he was born, I used to watch TV in there. And lots of times Grandma slept over on the hide-a-bed. And now we watch TV in the living room, and Grandma doesn't sleep over very often. My mother moved Fudge's crib into my room. He's going to get a regular bed when he's 3, my mother says. There are lots of reasons I don't like to sleep in the same room as Fudge. I found that out 2 months ago when my bedroom was being painted. I had to sleep in Fudge's room for 3 nights because the paint smell made me cough. For one thing, he talks in his sleep. And if a person didn't know better, a person could get really scared. Another thing is that slurping noise he makes. It's true that I like to hear it when I'm awake, but when I'm trying to fall asleep, I like things really quiet. When I complained about having to sleep with Fudge, my mother said, "It's just for 2 nights, Peter." "I'll sleep in the living room," I suggested. "I'll sleep on the sofa. I'll even sleep in a chair." Excuse me. "No," my mother said. "You'll sleep in your bedroom in your own bed." There was no point in arguing. Mom wasn't going to change her mind. She spent the day in the kitchen. She really cooked up a storm. She used to have so many pots and pans that Fudge didn't have any She used so many pots and pans that Fudge didn't even have any left to bang together. That's one of his favorite pastimes, banging pots and pans together. A person can get an awful headache listening to that racket. Right after lunch, my mother opened up the dinner table. We don't have a separate dining room. When we have company come over for dinner, we eat in one end of the living room. When my mom's finished setting the table, she put a silver bowl filled with flowers right in the middle of it. I said, "Hey, Mom, looks like you're expecting the president or something." "Yeah, very funny, Peter," my mother answered. Sometimes my mother laughs at my crazy jokes, and then sometimes she pretends not to get them. And then there are times when I know that she gets them, and she doesn't seem to like them. This was one of those times. So I decided no more jokes until after dinner. I went to Jimmy Fargo's for the afternoon. I came home at 4 o'clock. I found my mother standing over the dinner table mumbling. Fudge was on the floor playing with my father's socks. I'm not sure why he likes socks so much, but if you give him a few pairs, he'll play quietly for an hour. I said, "Hi, Mom, I'm home." "I'm missing 2 flowers," my mother said. I don't know how she noticed that 2 flowers were missing from her silver bowl, because there were at least a dozen of them left. But sure enough, when I checked, I saw 2 stems with nothing on them. "Don't look at me, Mom," I said. What would I do with 2 measly flowers?" So we both looked at Fudge. "Did you take Mommy's pretty flowers?" my mom asked him. "No take," Fudge said. He was chewing on something. "What's in your mouth?" my mother asked. Fudge didn't answer. "Show Mommy." "No show," Fudge said. "Oh, yes." My mother picked him up and forced his mouth over. She fished out a rose petal. "What did you do with Mommy's flowers?" She raised her voice. She was really getting upset. Fudge laughed. "Tell Mommy." "Ooh, yum," Fudge said. "Yummy, yummy, yummy, yummy." "Oh, no," my mother cried, rushing to the telephone. She called Dr. Cohn. She told him that Fudge ate 2 flowers. Dr. Cohn must have asked what kind, because my mom said, roses, I think, but I can't be sure. One might have been a daisy. There was a long pause while my mother listened to whatever Dr. Cohn had to say, and then Mom said, "Oh, thank you, Dr. Cohn," and she hung up. "No more flowers," she told Fudge. "You understand?" "No more," Fudge repeated. "No more, no more, no more, no more." My mother gave him a spoonful of peppermint-flavored medicine, the kind I take when I have stomach aches, and then she carried Fudge off to have his bath. Leave it to my brother to eat flowers. I wondered how they tasted. Maybe they're delicious and I don't even know it because I never tasted one, I thought. I decided to find out. So I picked off one petal from a pink rose and I put it in my mouth and I tried to chew it up, but I couldn't do it. It tasted awful. I spit it out in the garbage. Well, at least now I know I wasn't missing anything great. Fudge ate his supper in the kitchen before our company arrived. While he was eating, I heard my mother remind him, "Fudgy's going to be a good boy tonight. Aren't you, Fudgy? You're going to be very good for Daddy's friends." "Good," Fudge said. "Good boy." "That's right," my mother told him. I changed and scrubbed up while Fudge finished his supper. I was going to eat with the company. Being 9 has its advantages. We'll continue tomorrow. Monday.